I'm here to share with you my end of summer makes, and you're going to want to watch to the end because I made a pair of shorts that needed no fit adjustments, and I'm not sure that that's ever happened before, so I'd love to tell you all about it. Hi, my name is Sarah, and welcome to my channel, which is all about sewing and styling a handmade wardrobe. I'd made a plans video a few months back where I talked about needing to replace some pajamas that were old and worn out in my wardrobe, so I concentrated on filling that gap, and I ended up making 2.5 pairs of new pajamas. The first thing that I did was I made these shorts out of a red double gauze. Earlier on, I had made a set of pajamas out of this exact fabric, and the top was still perfectly fine and wearable, but the shorts had gotten really small and tight to the point where it was kind of difficult for me to pull them up and down over my hips. So it was time to make a new pair, and I had enough of this fabric left over that I could go ahead and just remake the shorts and keep the top. So I started off with this because I only needed to make one piece. This fabric was left over from a needle sharp box that I had gotten several years ago, and I used my favorite elastic waist pants and shorts pattern, which is the Paper Cut Patterns Tula pants. This time around, I reprinted the pattern in a size 3. Originally, I had made the size 2 and modified it a little bit, and I did make a muslin for these. So after making the muslin and trying it on, I did make some adjustments. The first thing that I did was I added 1 inch to the rise of the shorts on both the back and the front. So the whole thing is 1 inch longer above the crotch. And then the other thing that I did was I added 1 inch of width on the front leg all the way down from the waistband to the bottom of the hem. Now the reason that I did this was because I've been thinking for a long while about my fit adjustments and why they haven't necessarily worked that well in the past. So one of my major fit issues that I have in pants and shorts is that they're always too tight in the thighs. I have large muscular thighs. And previously, the way I was trying to deal with that was that I was changing the shape of the crotch. Like basically at the crotch extension, I was adding some extra fabric right underneath the thigh. But I found that that didn't always work that well. Like sometimes it would end up bunchy in places. And so it's like a puzzle that I couldn't solve. It's always been bothering me in the back of my brain. How come my pants don't fit quite right? I'm just feeling really unsatisfied with every pair of pants that I make. And then one day I had an epiphany that I think that I've been doing the adjustment wrong because I'm adding the fabric in the wrong place. So my thighs are larger in circumference than you would expect for someone of my hip size, but the weight isn't evenly distributed all the way around. The extra bulk on my thighs is on the front because I have large quads. And so every pair of pants and shorts that I have practically, and I'll try to put it in a photo of me wearing like skinny jeans so you can see what I mean. The side seam pretty much always gets pushed to the front on my thigh because it's so tight there. And so the epiphany that I had was I think that instead of adding the extra fabric underneath at the crotch seam, I actually should be adding the fabric on the front of my leg because that's where I need it. Sounds like a very simple thing when I say it out loud, but I've seriously been thinking about this problem for years and years, and I hadn't figured it out until this point. Now, I'm not saying that I've solved my fit issues forever, like I need to make some more pants first and see if this solution continues to work, but at least for this pattern, it worked like a charm. So on my pattern piece, I just split the entire front piece all the way down from top to bottom, added in 1 inch of width, and then taped it back together again. And then I did the same thing on the front of the waistband so that it would match. That works just fine because this is an elastic waistband and the elastic will gather in the extra fullness. If this were a fitted pair of pants, I would need to do it a little bit differently. But in this case, I found that it worked really well. After I made these shorts and tried them on, I decided that I needed to make a couple further adjustments, which I will talk about in my next pair. But overall, I was just really happy with the fit of these shorts, and I actually still have my original ones so I can show you the difference. So these are my old shorts on top of the new ones. So the thing about these shorts on top is that, so they were really, really tight and hard to pull on and off. And I assumed it was because I had gotten bigger, but when I actually retook my measurements really haven't changed very much, maybe like a quarter to a half an inch, which I acknowledge does make a difference, but it shouldn't make that big of a difference. But then I actually held up my original shorts to other Tula shorts that I own, and these are even smaller. I think what actually happened with these is that they have shrunk in the wash over time. And that's why they're so tight and uncomfortable, why I have such a hard time getting them on and off over my hips. Hopefully these new ones, they probably will shrink since the originals did. Hopefully they won't shrink too much, and I should be able to wear these for many years, hopefully before I need to replace them again. I don't have any new photos of me in the shorts, but this was the first thing that I made, and then we'll move on to the next set. So after I finished the red pair of shorts, I decided that I didn't need quite as much space on the front of the leg. As I said, I added a full inch. So I decided to back that off a little bit, only increase the front leg by 5/8 of an inch. And I actually like the results of that a lot better. And then the other adjustment that I decided to make after I finished the red ones was that the shorts overall in length were fine, but I wanted them to be just a little bit shorter. So I went ahead and shortened the inseam by 1/2 inch. So I had lengthened the rise by 1 inch, and then I took off a 1/2 inch of inseam. But overall, it was really not a ton of adjustments ultimately that I needed for these shorts, which is very different compared to what I was doing in the past. I was trying to do all these difficult, complicated adjustments, trying to solve all these different issues. Now I'm realizing that I just needed to keep it simple, just do a few small, minor adjustments, and that has made a world of difference. So this fabric is a cotton poplin that I got from Fabric Wholesale Direct. Originally, I was going to make a button-up shirt with it, but I decided the stripes were just a little bit too wide and bold, and I don't think I'd really feel comfortable in a shirt like that. So I decided to use them for PJs instead. So just like with the red pair, I made the Tula shorts with no extra details. And then for the top, I made the Wiksten top, which is a discontinued pattern, and I made the size 0 with no modifications. Now, unfortunately, when I went to iron this shirt, I realized that some dye bled on it from something else in the wash, which is very annoying, but they're pajamas, so I'm going to try to just live with it. It's not that big of a deal to me. For this set, because I didn't want to look like I was in an old-timey prison, I decided to play with the stripes a little bit. On the top, the stripes are horizontal, and then on the bottom, the stripes are vertical except for the waistband. And I did consciously try to match the stripes on the crotch seams here, but I neglected to think about the side seam, and so I do have this unfortunate, like narrow little white stripe on the sides, which annoys me. But again, it's pajamas, it's not that big of a deal. I'm just going to get over it. I did also try to match up the side seams on the top. So because this set is made out of a cotton poplin, it's super light and very comfortable and cool to wear. So I really don't have a lot to say about this particular set. I think it was probably the easiest one that I made. After I made the fit adjustments, it just went together really easily. I do have pictures of me wearing this one, so you'll be able to see those as I've been talking about it. And now we can move on to my last set of PJs, which was more of a pain in the neck than I was expecting. So I had bought this silk charmeuse from Fabric Mart so long ago. I want to say that I bought the fabric in like 2010 or 2012. I remember that it was on a very deep discount, and so it was unexpectedly cheap for being 100% silk. So that's why I bought it. I definitely know that I bought it because it was on sale. And at the time, I was going to make a dress or a skirt or something, but after I got it home and had it in my stash, I realized that I don't like the print. I don't know. I just don't like it. Like, I feel like I should like it because it's black and white, but I'm really quite picky about my florals, and I just don't like this. Before anyone tells me to dye the fabric, I don't dye fabrics because I used to do some dyeing experiments with yarn and fabric back in the day. I had a bad allergic reaction, so changing the color of things with dyeing is just off the table for me. I don't do that. So this fabric had been sitting in my stash for years and years and years, and I just wanted to get rid of it. And so I decided that making it into PJs would be really good because I don't really care what I look like when I'm wearing PJs. It's just for sleeping. Silk would actually be a really nice fabric to make pajamas out of. So I did the exact same set. I made the Wiksten top and I made the Tula shorts with no extra details. But this fabric was an absolute nightmare to work with. I've worked with silk charmeuse in the past. I used starch to try to make it a little bit stiffer. That didn't really work that well. I know that there's all kinds of techniques you can use when working with silk charmeuse, like you can cut it out with tissue paper and et cetera, et cetera. I didn't do any of those things because it was just more work than I was willing to put into it. But the fabric was just really slippery and difficult to work with, and I found it really hard to hem. Like, the fabric kept shifting on me and not wanting to lay flat. I did not enjoy the process of sewing these pajamas at all. I have to be honest with you. It took me several days because I would sew a few seams and be frustrated and just want to throw it in a corner for a while and then pick it up another day. So it took me longer than I wanted to sew these up, and it's not very even. Like, my stitches are a little bit wonky because the fabric kept slipping around. This is not my best work, and I don't like the fabric, like I just said, so I don't really like the look of these. I didn't even bother taking pictures. I'll try to snap a quick mirror selfie just so you can see what it looks like on. But as far as the sewing process goes, like, I did not enjoy this. I don't like working with slippery fabrics. I do try to avoid it whenever possible. It's why I don't have a ton of sheers or silks or anything really delicate in my stash. I just don't like those kinds of fabrics. However, I did wear these PJs for a couple of nights, And I have to admit that they are really nice to wear. They're very, very cool to the touch. I think that they'll be good in both the winter season and the summer season. Wearing silk PJs is very luxurious, and I really, really do like these. So I am not going to be in a rush to use this type of fabric again anytime soon. But I'm also not going to completely take silk PJs off the table forever because these are really nice to wear. If you're enjoying this video so far, I would really appreciate it if you would give me a thumbs up because it helps more people find my channel. Now that we've covered the smorgasbord of pajamas, let's move on to something else. I finally finished my hand knit sweater that I've been working on. I think I cast it on in June, and I did put it aside for a good chunk of the summer because it was just so unbearably hot. I didn't really feel like knitting, but I pulled it back out in August and I got it done. This is a basic striped pullover. It's knit out of LRA Eco Organic Cotton. Two different colors. One is a cream color. I'm not sure how it's showing up on camera, but it's definitely a cream. It's not white. And then the other color is very, very difficult to describe. I would say it's kind of a muted teal. It's really halfway in between a blue and a green. It's hard to say whether it's one or the other, and it's very grayed out. I chose this particular color combination because most of my striped items, my t-shirts, my sweaters, they're all very bold, high contrast stripes, so like red and white or navy and white or black and white. And I just wanted something that was a little bit calmer, a little bit more muted. I wanted to use cotton because I figured I could wear it year round. Now, maybe year round is a little bit too far. Like when it's really, really hot out, I'm not going to wear this sweater. But on those days when it's just a little bit chilly in the morning or chilly in the evenings, I can definitely throw it on. I think in the model photos, I show it worn with a pair of shorts, but I also think that I could layer this up in the wintertime with like a turtleneck underneath. So the pattern that I used for this is from the Knitter's Handy Book of Sweater Patterns. It's my very favorite sweater pattern book. It's just a basic recipe where you can make different styles of sweaters at different gauges. I did these 6 stitches per inch. I did a 38-inch wide chest. This style is the modified drop shoulder, and so you can see it has this little notch here. When what that notch does is it eliminates the extra bulk underneath the arm when you have a drop shoulder sweater. Not exactly fitted, but just a little bit less bulk under the arms, which I really like. I used size 2 needles for the ribbing, and I used size 4 for the body, and I did knit the entire thing flat in pieces and then seamed it. So because my arms are shorter than average, I had to recalculate all of the decreases so that I could make the sleeves 2 inches shorter. And they ended up being right at like bracelet length, which for a summer sweater, I think is just perfect. Now, you may be able to see the little ends sticking out here. So the problem that I've always found with cotton sweaters in particular is that the ends always want to work their way out to the right side. And the only way that I've ever figured how to combat that is just to leave them on the inside extra long, which I admit does not look the best. Otherwise, I find that if I clip the ends too short, they end up working themselves out to the outside of the sweater, and that looks really bad too. So I don't know if you have any solutions for how to hide the ends so that they actually stay tucked in on the back of the sweater. I'd really love to hear your suggestions because I've just never been able to solve that particular problem. So this sweater was modeled after one that I saw on the Quince website. It's such a basic style. I figured there was no point in buying something when I could just make it myself and have it fit me even better. I'm sure that if I purchased a sweater, the sleeves would be way too long on me. And I'm really very happy with how this came out. Earlier on in my knitting journey, I was always focused on making the most spectacular looking, intricate, beautiful sweaters because those were more fun to knit. But I find that in my everyday life, I reach more for like the standard, basic, simple sweaters. And I think that this is going to fit into my wardrobe so well. I've already worn it 3 times since I finished it in late August, which is really impressive for me because some of my sweaters, I only wear them a couple times a year. So this may not be the most exciting thing to look at or the most exciting thing to knit, but I think it's going to be very functional and useful in my wardrobe. And that's really the most important thing. Now moving on to the last, and to me, the most exciting make of late summer, and that is this pair of Hadid shorts from Ready to Sew. Now this pattern came out, I think in July, and I purchased it immediately. That's not something that I do very much anymore. I have so many patterns in my stash that I typically don't buy something unless there's just some element that's really unique and different. And this pants and shorts pattern had this feature where they had these pin tucks on the side that look similar to like an Adidas track pant, but it's made out of the fabric. And I just thought that that was so cool. The pattern does come in both shorts view. There's a short short, there's a long short, and then there's pants that are like the tearaway pants with snaps, or you can put an invisible zipper at the hem. You can open it up and make them more of a wider leg. I would like to make the track pants at some point. I might just skip the whole feature of being able to open it up, but I do just really like the look of these. They also have some shaping across the back. So the back panel is in two different pieces, and there's basically a dart built into the top here. And the other design feature of these is that they're a low rise, or at least the pattern calls it a low rise, but I would say it's more of a mid rise. Like it basically just hits right below my belly button. It doesn't sit really super low. So I did make a muslin of these in the size 36, and I just printed the pattern and cut out the muslin because I wanted to see how the pin tucks went together and then just try them on and figure out what adjustments I needed to make. And to my shock and delight, when I tried on the muslin, they actually fit perfectly. That is so incredibly rare. I'm not sure that that's ever happened to me before. I think the fact that it is a little bit of a lower rise meant that I didn't have to add extra length to the crotch. And then the legs are nice and wide already, so I didn't need to add extra room for my thighs. And I was just so incredibly delighted that they fit me without having to do anything. It's just a feeling that I haven't ever really experienced before, and I was just so incredibly shocked and also really encouraged. And so I wanted to sew them up right away. I got out some leftover linen. This is from Fabric Wholesale Direct. I had made a jacket out of it a few months ago, and I had just enough left to make these shorts. Now the instructions for the pin tucks are really good. The only thing that I would say is that when you are sewing it up with the pocket and everything, you just need to be really careful that you don't end up accidentally stitching this outer pin tuck into the side seam, because when I was making my muslin, I did do that a few times. So when I sewed up the real thing, I just made sure that I kept this pin tuck out of the way. I actually think I pinned it out of the way when I sewed the side seams so that it wouldn't get caught in the pocket. Other than that, I would say that's the only slightly tricky detail about it. The rest of it was very easy to put together. These shorts are so comfortable and I absolutely love them. I would definitely make them again. And like I said, I would like to try the pants at some point, although I don't think that I would bother with the tearaway detail because that's just not something that I care about. I think they would be perfectly fine as just a straight, like wide leg pant. So I highly recommend this pattern if you haven't tried it before and you were interested in it. It's a really great beyond basic. Like it's just a simple elastic waist pair of shorts with pockets, but this little pin tuck detail makes it a little bit more interesting. And I know that these shorts are going to get a lot of wear in summers to come. I'm absolutely thrilled with the way that they turned out, and white shorts just go with so many things in my summer wardrobe. So that wraps it up for all of my end of summer makes. I'm really excited to get into the fall now and making things more for the colder season. Wherever you are in the world, I hope that you're doing well. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.